Hello, I'm in the Tiffany Falls conservation area in Hamilton. It's quite warm, so I thought why not answer a question that's very common. How do I immigrate to Canada? Like, what do I need to come to Canada as a permanent resident?
So as of 2015, the main immigration program to Canada is called Express Entry. And Express Entry further has three different types of sub-programs. One is called the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the other one is called the Federal Skilled Trade Program, and the third one is called the Canadian Experience Class.
Now let's briefly talk about the three. If you are a professional, like an engineer, doctor, dentist, architect, most of the professionals will apply through the Federal Skilled Worker Program. This program generally requires you to have a university degree. There are three types of occupations who are eligible to apply for this program. First of all, professionals who generally have a university degree. This is also called National Occupation Code Group A occupations. You may also be a skilled trade worker, and you may be part of NOC Group B. The Federal Skilled Trades Program might seem too good to be true, and it is. For this program, you actually need to have a job offer for at least 1 year from a Canadian employer. If you don't have a job offer, you need to have a certificate of qualification from a Canadian province. What that means is, if you are an electrician and you did, suppose, diploma in associate engineering in the electrical trade, you need to take an exam in Canada through which you will get your certificate of qualification, which means that they basically will accept your work experience in Canada. Similarly, for the Federal Skilled Trades, you don't need to have a formal education, but you need to have at least some experience in apprenticeship, because for NOC type B occupations, apprenticeship or work experience is very important. There are two more videos, one on which language exam you should take, and on another one on the basic eligibility criteria for Express Entry. I'll put the links on the description below. So what's next? You figured out that you fall under either the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the Federal Skilled Trade Program, or the Canadian Experience Class. Next comes the CRS. CRS is also called the Comprehensive Ranking System. It's a scoring system out of 1200 where you need to score a lot of points. In the CRS, you get points out of 1200. There are two main factors. 4 points, which are up to 600, that are based on your skills and experience factors, your spouse or common law partners factors such as their skills and language experience, and your education and work experience. You can also earn additional points if you have a job offer from Canada, you have a Canadian work experience, or you studied from Canada. And you also get points for strong language skills. You get points for your siblings, so it has to be your brother or sister or your wife's brother or sister living in Canada. You just can't get points for any relative, it has to be your siblings. We discussed Express Entry, we discussed the three types of program within Express Entry, we discussed the comprehensive ranking system. So what's next? How do you start the process? First of all, you need to take an English language exam. It can either be an IELTS exam or a self-tip exam. Once you take the language exam and you score more than the minimum required, you can actually qualify. Next, you need to get your educational credential assessment. What that means is, if you do not have Canadian education, you studied from abroad, you need to get your education assessed by one of the few Canadian organizations who can actually do that. It can either be World Education Services, ICAS, University of Toronto, etc. Once you have those two things in place, you can actually make your Express Entry profile. One very important thing that you need to remember before making your Express Entry profile is, you need to be very careful in selecting your occupation, because your occupation must match your job description. If there is a discrepancy, your application can actually be denied because the visa officer can simply say that your work experience isn't what you're saying. So once you have your language exam, you have your educational credential assessment, you know your occupation, you're damn sure, you will make an express entry profile and also submit your profile in the job bank. So if any Canadian employer likes you, likes your profile and they want to hire you, they can actually give you a job offer. Next, you will wait for an invitation to apply. Each month, Government of Canada sends a lot of invites. They can range from 6,000 to 7,000 every month. You get an invitation to apply. What that means is the government wants you to apply for permanent residence and you will then lodge your visa application. After that, it should take you roughly 6 months to get your confirmation of permanent residence. I'll put a link to a video on processing times below in the description. First of all, check whether you qualify for express entry or not. There's a video in the description which will show you that you need to score at least 67 points out of 100 to qualify for express entry. Now, qualification doesn't mean that you will actually be invited to apply for permanent residence. It just means that you are eligible to be in the pool of candidates, and there are thousands of people in that pool. You need to score as high as you can in the comprehensive ranking system, the CRS, in order to get an invite to apply for permanent residence. The higher you score in your English language exam, the better education you have. If you have any siblings, whether or not you had any Canadian education or work experience, all of these factors will influence how much you score in the CRS. One very important point is the PNP program, or the provincial nomination. If a province decides to nominate you to come live and work in that province, you can actually get 600 points in the CRS. 600 points should be enough to get you an invitation to apply for permanent residence, because that way you'll be scoring somewhere around 8, 9 or 1,000 points in the CRS, which is a lot. Each province has their own criteria for provincial nomination. A very important thing to remember here is legally only a Canadian lawyer who is registered with the Law Society of a province or an immigration consultant who is registered with ICCRC, only they are allowed to give you immigration advice for a fee or a consideration. It doesn't matter if a lawyer has studied from US or from England or from any other country of the world. If they are not registered with the Law Society of a Canadian province, they cannot give you immigration advice. So there are a lot of scammers out there. Be careful. Always take the help of a licensed professional because they have studied the law, they have gone through licensing exams, just so they can not only give you the best possible advice, but because the Canadian government wants to protect not only your interests but also those of the government and of the professionals. As you can see, you can actually sweat in Canada. It's not only about snow and cold. It can get pretty warm in here. I hope you found this video to be useful. I'm sweating a lot. I love the weather, but still I'm sweating a lot and I think it's time to get out of here. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section. I try my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Till next time, see you.